Hello, my name's Roy Granger, and this is my audio blog. The onslaught of snow we've experienced in the last few days has left the village a desolate and isolated place. The high street is strewn with abandoned cars resembling a Hot Wheels playset in the waiting room of a children's hospital. None of the shops have opened for days, having completely run out of bread and milk minutes after the first snowflake dared to grace the pavement. I, however, being a cosmopolitan young man, yesterday had need to leave the village, as it was my regular day for searching the charity shops of the nearest town for rare knitting patterns to add to my scrapbook. I knew there'd be no chance that the bus would make it into the village centre. During one of my contemplative walks, I'd seen the man in the snowplough on the day the snow began to fall stop on the outskirts of the village. He got up on top of his roof, took out a pair of binoculars and scanned the village. He then shook his head, clambered back into his carriage, put his feet up, lit a cigarette, and then spent the next 34 minutes and 21 seconds leafing through a copy of Audrey Niffenegger's The Time Traveller's Wife, before finally turning round and leaving the same way he arrived. All of this information is of course elaborated on in my report to the local council, complete with photographic evidence of the man, as well as photographic evidence of the stopwatch on my phone to prove that the report is indeed accurate. So I knew the bus would not be getting into the village, but being the weather-worn young man that I am, I decided I would not let this interrupt my weekly schedule, and armed with appropriate clothing, I braved the elements. I made my way along the single road that connected my village to the next for maybe half an hour, my legs crawling through snow that reached halfway up my Wellington boots, when from behind me I heard a strained mechanical roar. I could see a flying wave of white moving closer to me. Whatever the beast was, it made light work of the heavily embedded snow, flinging it to either side of the road as it ploughed through. I scrambled up the mound of snow that had replaced the pavement so that I did not get swallowed up by this beast. As it grew level with me, I realised that it was a car, a Ford Orion, I believe, with a large sheet of metal attached to the bonnet as some sort of makeshift snowplough. The car stopped alongside me, smoke bumbled out as a window was wound down, and a croaked voice called to me. "Here, do you need a lift?" I must have been quite confused by this situation, as I uttered some sort of affirmative and bundled into the passenger's side seat. "You're a brave one to be out in this." I shivered a nod at the driver, a man with a face full of deep wrinkles, suggesting that he was very old. With a concentrated effort, the driver got the car in motion again. 7 hours it's taken me to get through the village with this bit of corrugated iron on the front of the car, but I've got places to go, people to see, and when I saw you, I knew you were the same as me. That's why I had to stop and pick you up. As I relayed my gratitude to the driver, he rummaged under his seat with one hand, which unnerved me, as the condition of the road warranted that any sane man make it his sole focus. He produced a small tin, flicked open the lid. It was filled with tobacco and rolling papers. He took out a paper and a pinch of tobacco and then placed his elbows on the steering wheel to control the car as he attempted to roll a cigarette. At this point it was confirmed that I was most definitely not in the company of a sane man. Fancy a roll-up? No, thank you. Not wanting to distract the man any further, I decided that monosyllabic answers were probably the best response. I didn't want him to have to consider any sort of complex response of mine. The man already had plenty on his plate. "Would you like some music?" He looked in my direction, his eyebrows like mangled white flames. "Yes," I answered. At this point, I'd take anything to be distracted from my impending death at the hands of a madman. "There's a place for us, somewhere a place for us." He was singing, now growling the song Somewhere from West Side Story at me, accompanied by dramatic arm gestures. I looked at the dashboard, and there was just a sprouting of wires where the radio should have been. If I wasn't completely terrified, then this man would have been fascinating to study. However, I was terrified, a nausea-inducing terror. Hyperventilating and soaked through with sweat, I checked the doors and windows, but I couldn't figure out how they operated, so throwing myself through one of them from the moving car was not an option. "This is me," I managed to squeal in the tight gaps between my speedy breaths. "What, here?" Yes, just the fallen tree next to the shopping trolley." "Right you are, then." We stopped, and with some effort I managed to open the door. Having stepped out of the car, despite wanting to do nothing more than curl up in the snow and sob, my deeply ingrained politeness leaned back into the car. Thanks very much for the lift. You take care on your journey. Snow bother? Ha! Get it? Snow bother? Anyway, so long, fellow traveller. I stood waving as he continued down the road. When he was out of sight, I turned around and started the long journey back home.